Hi everyone. Okay, for this setting I am starting with a stone that is 1/2 inch wide by 3/4 of an inch long. It's a rectangle with soft edges and it is about 6 millimeter thick in the middle. I have 3 pieces of wire for the frame. I have 2 pieces of 20 gauge round soft copper wire cut to 12 inches long. And I have 1 piece of 18 gauge round soft copper wire also cut to 12 inches long. I have 10 feet of 28 gauge weaving wire on a bobbin ready for the bale and other coiling. I'm going to start by making my prong wire. I'll take my 12 inches of 20 gauge round, just straighten it out with my fingers or my nylon jaw, and I'm going to lay it against my measure. And I'm going to find the center point of my wire, in this case 6 inches, and I'll make a little mark at the center of my wire. I'm going to align the center of my wire with the center of my stone, and then I'm going to figure that I need prongs right about at these corners here. It's about 1/4 of an inch out, so I'm going to mark my first set of prongs, just remarking my center, and then my second prong over here. I'll use my 3.2 millimeter flathead plier to make these prongs. If you're using a different type of plier, you're looking to make your prong 3 millimeter or 4 millimeter tall for a 6 millimeter depth stone using the same wires that I'm using. So I'll just hold to the outside of that first mark, make sure that I'm level. I'll turn my wire, create a 90-degree bend, and then with my other hand just bring the wire back down on the other side of my plier to make my prong. Come over here to this side, grip my wire, and turn my wire back to horizontal. Okay, I'll turn this around just so I keep the same hand motions, and I'll repeat this. Get just to the outside of my prong mark. I'll make sure that I'm level with this one. I'll turn this 90 degrees straight up. While it's here, I'm going to go ahead and bend the prong over. Grip it from the opposite side and turn the wire back to horizontal. So from here I'll flatten the prong heads down. I like to go ahead and squeeze first at the bottom and then squeeze again right here at the top to close the prong, then squeeze on top of the prong to level it back out, and then one more time to the sides, and again to the top. And then I'll just repeat on this next one. If you guys are wondering why I'm wearing my black gloves, it's because my wrists have been quite sore. So the gloves help me a little bit. Hopefully they're not distracting to you. Okay, so there I have my first set of prongs. And I've got them, like I said, right here at the corners, so they'll actually kind of lay more catty when I turn the wire. And now I have to measure for my prongs up here. So the distance is about 3/4 of an inch, maybe a little bit more. So I'm going to measure down here about 3/4 of an inch to get me up to here. I could easily turn the wire also. You want to make sure that you place this one on the upper corner. We know that our next one needs to be about right here. Let's go ahead and make that mark. I can just turn my wire get that upper prong on that corner, knowing that I have to make my next prong about right here. And certainly this works great if the stone's not perfectly symmetrical. About 3/4 of an inch here. Got about a little more than 3/4 of an inch here. No, they're about the same. So I'm just going to realign my wire to the center of the stone, my center mark. And I know it's center because I can use this here. And I can see that pretty much my marks are even on both sides. They align with the center marks on the inches next door. So I'll go ahead and make this second set of prongs now. Take the same length plier, repeat the process, just get to the end right here, right at the edge of the mark, push up for a 90-degree turn, take the wire over the plier, move over, and bring the wire back to horizontal. While I'm here, I might as well go ahead and close it. I'm only going to set one prong on each corner of this stone since it's a little smaller stone. I'll come over here and repeat. Okay, all four of your prongs should all be pointed in the same direction here. And if I turn my stone, these prongs should lay pretty well at each corner. It looks pretty good. So now I'll go ahead and attach it to the other two frame wires here. I'm going to use 3 instead of 2, and I'll use this back wire in a different way. This 18 gauge is the last wire down here, and that's the wire that I'll take around to the back of the stone. Oop. So when I view it this way, I know it's a little hard to see, but that lower 18 gauge wire is actually going to slip underneath the stone. Okay, so the middle wire is the one that's going to ride right here at the bottom edge. And those prongs should fit pretty well based on that. Okay? All right. So I'll just center my prong wire to my other two wires here. It'll be a little bit shorter now because we've made prongs. And if you want to take a piece of painter's tape and tape it to help you hold on to it, you can do that. Just put a little piece of tape right here. Give yourself a little tiny bit of airspace in between each of these. And we'll start weaving right about here. So I'll just take 2 feet out of my bobbin. split these wires slightly open. We'll go ahead and start weaving about 5 millimeters ahead of the first prong. Alright, so I'll start my weaving on the lower wire. Just going to insert a leading inch and hold on to it. I'll go up and do a complete 360 around this first 18 gauge wire. Then I'll go up and do a complete 360 around the center wire. Up again and a complete 360 around the prong wire. You want to be about 4 or 5 millimeter before the prong. So once I complete that upper 360, I'll be to the back side of the frame, and now I'll come back down, and since I have my 360 around the upper wire, I'll do a 360 around the center wire, and then traveling down from the back, do a complete 360 around the lower frame wire, and that puts me back to the front. So traveling up, since I just did my 360 on the lower wire, I'll do a complete 360 around this middle wire, and then travel up and do a complete 360 around the prong wire. This is just a 1/1 weave, and you'll want to do that, from the bottom, go up, go down, go up, come back down, and then you'll be ready to scooch up next to your prong. So once we make this last segment going down, just use my fingernail and scooch the weave a little bit closer to this prong right here. And now I'll continue to weave just the 2 bottom wires until I reach the opposite side of the prong. So staying within the same pattern, I'll go up and do a complete 360 around this middle wire, and then I'll come back down, do a complete 360 around this lower wire, up, and 360 around the center wire, go down. It should be about 5 repeats, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then going back up would be 5. Okay. Then up, might be 6. Do a complete 360 around the center wire. I am going to do one, just do 6, go one more. And now when I go back up, I'm right here at this edge, and I'm going to go ahead and capture all 3 wires again, and I'll do the same amount. So this is, 4 repeats or 2 whole segments up and down. So 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So I'll do that here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I'll switch to just the upper 2 wires. Okay, so here I'll stay within pattern. I'll make a complete 360 around the center wire, and now I will jump up, make a complete 360 around the prong wire, and now I'll travel back down, do a complete 360 around the center wire, and a complete 360 around the lower wire, then one more time up and down, And I'm going the amount of segments that I'm going because of the distance I have between these two prongs. It'll leave me enough to lift the lower wire onto the back of the stone. So right here is the segment between the segment on the side of my stone. Just go ahead and push those all together. Let's get rid of this forwarding one. Just turn it into a little circle until it breaks. Now you can see what you're doing a little better. So right here is one, prong weave segment. Now we're just going to weave the upper two until we get about 2 millimeter away from this prong, and we'll go back to all three of them. You'll have an open segment down here on this lower wire, and that's the segment we'll pull onto the stone for a little seat, just like we would in a traditional frame. Okay? So from here now, I'm just going to jump up, and I'm going to stay in pattern, do a complete 360 around the center wire, and now I'm going to just work this pattern on the upper two wires, the prong wire and the center wire. Stay in the same overhanded pattern. So I'll just do a 360 over the top wire. Now I'll come down and do a 360 around the center wire. Come back up and do a complete 360 around the upper wire. Do a complete 360 around the center wire. Okay, so right about here, I'm going to go ahead and start reconnecting my third base wire, staying in the same pattern. Make sure that you push your weave back so that you get a proper look at the distance. And that's about right. It's okay if you have to spread them out, one coil or so, it's not too bad. Or make one extra row of up and down. Weave. Okay. That's one. Go back down. That's two. And I'll go up and down one more time to make it even with how I started. Gonna probably have to release some more wire from my bobbin here. It's getting kind of short. Okay, and I'll make it all the way back down to the bottom. And then now I'm at the bottom center of my frame, and there isn't going to be very much room between here and here, you know, like there is here. I have barely enough room here. That'll make enough of a tab, but right here it's quite narrow. So rather than doing, 5 and 6 up and downs, I'm just going to go ahead and skip to the center wire past the prong. So I'm going to go ahead and jump to the center, and you can do yours according to how you need, but if there's only a half an inch here, so if I stitch on both sides, I'm not going to have enough to make a back tab. So I'm going to start the bottom wire from down here. And just kind of get a little bit closer to the center of the prong. And now I'll jump up from here. Just do a couple of single coils. To make my distance. And now I'll just work these two upper wires in the same pattern. Doing a 360 right here. And I'll exclude the lower wire, so I'll have a nice, pull for the bottom right here. One for the side here, and then one for the side will be here. Okay, so I'll just weave on these two upper wires till I get to here, and then I'll go underneath the prong and stitch, repeat basically this pattern backwards onto this side. Okay, so I'll come up and do a complete 360. And again, I'm weaving in the camera, so I'm weaving at an odd angle. Your hands would be closer to your body, and you would be, working these more like knitting, back and forth and not so rigid. I'm trying to stay faced into the camera here. So you would be more, turning this so you can get to it a little easier. Turning it back this way. You would be turning it to be able to get around your prongs a little easier. Okay. Work within a position that's comfortable for you in your hands and that you can see without straining. All right, so just keep weaving a little bit more. And now right about here, I'm going to get the shoulder one more time. I'm going to get the side of the prong one more time. The prong wire, one more loop. Oop. And now I'm just going to go to the center wire and I'll do a few single wraps on this center wire to get to the middle of the prong. So I'll make about 3 or 4 of these little single wraps to travel. And now here at the middle of the prong, middle center, I'll start grabbing the lower 2 wires for 2 stitches. See them right here. So staying in the same pattern. Do a 360 around the center one, drop below it, do a 360 around the bottom one. I think we can fit one more and then we'll go to the top. If you can't, then you can go and grab the top from here, but whatever fits between your prongs. I'm going to go ahead and jump to the top from here since I'm right there. Do a 360 around the top wire, and now I'll start traveling back down. Do a 360 around the center wire, and looking back over here, I'm right here now, so I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4 on this side of the prong, and then I'll go just to the top 2 to get to my last prong. So here's 1, 2. I'll go up, do a 360 around the middle one, go up, do a 360 around the prong wire, come back down, and now I will only work the upper 2 wires until I get to over here, and then I'll grab all 3 of them again, and that'll give me a bare stretch on this side of the pendant for me to turn a tab in for the bottom of the stone. Okay, it'll make sense to you once we wrap it. Oh, I think I accidentally, yep, I went down and grabbed the bottom one. I wasn't staying focused here. So since it's just a couple, I'm just going to unravel them. Let go of that bottom frame wire and travel just up to the top with these 2. Just weave these 2. Just work to keep your weave nice and even. We're almost there. My bobbin is about to collide, so I'm probably going to have to get some, or stop and release some wire here. So I'll just get another foot. And since I'm only working with these two, sometimes it's easier also just to go upside down with this weave. So you can see a little better, and so the prongs are facing down. You're in the same pattern. This particular weave is the same, and you know, if you turn it upside down, okay, so right about here, I turn it back around. I still got actually a little ways to go, don't I? So I'm going to weave until I get about 2 millimeter off the side of the prong, and then I'm going to go up and down, and catch all three with my overhanded weave for 2 repeats. I think there was 2 on this side. So here I'm doing a complete 360 around that one. I think I'm going to go one more. A complete 360 around the center wire. I'll go one more time with just these 2 base wires, and then I'll grab all 3 of them. About right there. And now I'll come down here and grab the 3rd base wire. I'll go up in the very same pattern to weave all 3 of them together. Go down and then do one more up and down repeat after that. Okay, so we're right here. So we've done 3 repeats on this side, so I guess you could do 3 rather than 2 if you have the space, and actually I probably do. So I'll go up and down one more time. And now here I'm just going to get the bottom 2 wires until I pass through to the other side of the prong, and then I'll get all 3 of them again and end with these last 4 repeats, up and down, up and down. Okay? So now I'll just work these bottom 2 wires for about 5 or 6 repeats. And I think on this one I can go back up and grab the upper frame wire. Come back down all 4 of these wires and do one more repeat of up and down. To end on the lower 18 gauge wire. Okay, and let me just use my fingers, tap all that together. You can use a nylon jaw or your flat nose pliers and just do a little tapping. And that looks pretty good. I actually gave a little bit more space over here, I think, for the back flipper than I did on that side, and that's okay. So going back to my stone, if I hold this here and I get my prongs right on its corners here, you can see that my 2 or 3 stitches, if I fold that over, should get me right about here, which is great because I need the 2 wires on both sides to come back up vertically for the bale. Okay, so we only wanted, it's about I can measure here, going back to the beginning when I first measured, my stone is a 1/2 inch and the center of it was 1/4 inch. So if this prong is on the corner, the end of that weave should be where I turn my wires back up for the bale. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this weaving wire. You can cut it or you can give tension and swirl it around until it breaks. Go ahead and peel off your tape. And since my stone has soft shoulders, even though it's rectangle, it's got soft shoulders. So rather than doing hard bends at these 2 prongs, I'm probably going to try to do a soft corner there. And I'll use my round nose plier to do that rather than my flat nose. And I'll get right here on the prong itself, about middle way through my plier. I'm not really holding it to crush it, I'm just holding it enough to turn it. And I'm going to try to get a 90 degrees from the long side of it over here. Okay, so just like that. Nice soft turn on this corner. Just work it. Try to get that prong right on the turn. If yours is a sharp square, then you could certainly use flat nose pliers right here. Get to the very center of your prong, and then just like the prong wire, hold and bend deeply and sharply. Mine is a curved stone, so rather I'm just going to use my round nose, try to make the 90-degree turn, leaving the prong there on the corner edge. Just like that. It's pretty good. And then I'm going to do the same with these two, but before I do, I'm going to turn these wires out because once I turn these corners up, they'll collide, right? So we can go ahead and turn these out 90 degrees. I usually just try to use the edge of my plier here. Hold everything very steady, and one big move, make a nice 90-degree turn right there at the edge. Same for this side. You want to make sure you've got the same amount of weaves. I might have turned a little too deep there, but that's okay. We can adjust it. Okay, just get them going out. And now back with your round nose right here at your prong. Let it straddle the inside there. Carefully turn this upper bit. Careful not to crush your weave. Mine is pretty small. Get right here at the edge of the prong. Just turn these wires inward. If it looks like this when you pinch your bale together, then don't worry about it. We'll adjust those wires. Make it square to the base, okay? Because that's probably more accurate to your stone. Put your stone in there for a fit. We can adjust these upper shoulders. Just work real carefully. Mine are a little bit shy, so actually let me get down here and make sure you're fully seated, you know, there at the base. And then if you're a little bit off, like I am, you can make a slight adjustment. Just open up that corner a little bit. Again, be careful of your weave. Get them so that they fit around your shoulders and that your prongs land on each of those shoulders. And that's pretty good. We'll adjust this top for the center. But once you feel like you've got a decent snug fit, let's turn to the back. Just push your weave if it gets away from you. Turn to the back, and we start in the bottom center so that you have a little bit of room to move. And I like to get a flat plier. Just hold so that the edge of the plier is at the center of the bare wire. And you'll just make an inward turn. I'm trying to do it upside down so you can see it. And you're just going to make an inward turn and cause a little bit of a bump right there. Just work carefully on both sides. Grab the bare wire, only the bare wire, and turn it inward slightly. Try to keep the shape of your frame. I don't think I got quite the middle, but that's okay. Okay. The same for this side. Get to the edge of my weave. Do a slight turn inward. It's going to make these wires pop out, and that's okay. Let them shift. Make sure that you have enough right there to come in. Same for this side. Get to the edge of the weave. Hold everything. Just turn that wire inward. It'll fan your wires outward, and that's okay. We'll just adjust them. So when they come back together, you should have a little tiny seat down here at the back of the frame. For your stone, put the stone back in there. You'll just kind of get these wires together again. Something like that. Make sure they're all nice and flat. Your prongs should be able to lay down right on top of the corners of the stone pretty nicely, and you've got a nice finished frame. So for up here, to adjust these, I'm just going to use my plier and I'll squeeze right here. Bend outward, and then just give it a little more space. Just like that. You want a slight gap there so that we have a place to, wrap the wires back through. So if yours are looking like this, it looks really good. I'm going to sharpen this corner up because I let it slip a little bit. Took it out of square a little bit. Just work carefully with your pliers. And once you feel like you've got the back and the neck, there's probably about 3 millimeter between that space. Once you feel like you've got the back and the neck pretty much set, I'm going to adjust this one actually. Just want to get that a little more square on that back corner. Okay. Once you feel like you've got the frame where you want it, go ahead and come back to your prongs now. Give a little tap, and we'll start to turn them down. You're going to take about the upper third into the plier. Hold steady right here at the corner and give a nice bend down on the prong. You might want to shift this upper wire when you do that, and that's okay. Just keep the upper wire under control. Turn down all 4 corners. Again, just about the upper third of the prong. Brace your thumb there and turn it to about 45 degrees. If it shifts this, it's okay. And then here. And And my last one. Okay, we can tighten those a little bit later on. And now I'll get my stone back in here. We still have the neck, fanned apart, so we should be able to get our stone in here fairly easily. Make sure that it sits nicely at all four corners and evenly. Always lay it down on your cry cut board. Make sure that you stay center. Make little adjustments at the back if you feel like you need to. That back wire, your stone should be sitting, nice and flat all along that back wire so that it sits evenly on this side, okay? When you're happy with it, your prongs aren't fully lowered yet. It's right here at the corners. We can turn them in a little bit more after we tie the neck together. Okay, so next we'll make our bale. You might still have a little bit of room between the stone and your frame, and that's okay. Alright, so just work it until you feel like you've got your stone seated fairly nicely. You can squeeze these prongs in a little bit just with your fingers to help you as we go. And that's pretty good. So when you feel like you've got your stone settled in there pretty well, you can take these two back wires, just hold everything at the shoulder. We're going to just cause a little tension by bringing them. So I've got the very back one on the left hand side, and I'll just drop it across the frame, and this one as well. Whoop. Just drop it across the frame. Just like that. Just hold those shoulders together. You can get a plier and just make sure your stone is sitting, correctly in there, and that the shoulders are both touching. Just turn it up. You're going to turn this one right next to it. Just turn it up so that they're slightly crisscrossed, just sitting in the back of the pendant. Okay, go ahead and just give them a slight backward tilt. That's pretty good. The front one is your prong wire. So if you kind of leave it there, the prongs don't have any closing tension. So same with this one, drop it clear down, the very front one. This one, clear down. Take your finger and just compress them right there. Just spread the two center ones a little bit. And right here, put your finger right here in the back to give it some brace. Turn the one, bring it all the way here to the back, snip it right here, leaving just enough, 3 or 4 millimeter, because we're going to curl right into that little space. Keep a hold on the shoulders. Oop. Try not to collide with my camera, but get it so that you can see. So right here, I'll just take a plier, do a gentle squeeze, tuck that wire into that little space right there. Squeeze it closed, just like that. And then repeat with this one. These are the 2 back wires. You can just keep them right back there. And then this is the opposite side. Take this wire, come around to the back. You can snip it right there, leaving about 2 or 3 millimeter. And then just take another plier, carefully work it closed into that little space. Okay? So that keeps your prong wires kind of, in this forward tension. And that'll help secure them there a little bit better. So your stone should be fitting pretty good. If you need to press these down, go ahead and lay all these flat, lay your stone down, give a nice press at the belly and press these 4 prongs in. Use your plier if you need to just help you kind of press along the edges there, like this, but certainly be down here on your board. Just get everything laying down and your prongs settled nicely. I'm just going to work mine in the air so that you can see it. And I'm going to do a little bit of burnishing, just rubbing this nice metal on top of the prong. If you have a burnisher, use that. If not, you can use a nice clean metal joint. The one on the end of my plier is pretty good. Certainly I'd be doing this down here, keeping away from my stone and just not killing it, but just rubbing these prongs down at the heads and rubbing the body of the prong a little bit to harden them and to shine them up. Work all 4 of them. Oop. You won't be in a camera, so you won't slip and hit your stone the way I did. Anyway, so that's a really nice capture. Clean. You can push these in a little bit if you need to. And now you have 2 wires in the front of the 20, the 2 20 gauge wires in front for design if you want them. And you have the 2 18 gauge wires in the back for a bale, and that's what we'll do next. Okay, so we'll go ahead and wrap the bale now. Once you get your neck tied up like this, you have your 2 front 20 gauge wires that were from the center wire, and then you have your 2 back 18 gauge wires. You can just make sure that you part those 2 18 gauge out evenly. I like to just put my pendant down on the cry cut board and spread those 2 wires out so that I'm even from the center. I like there to be about a 1/2 inch up here at the top where I'm going to turn them back in on themselves. Okay? And I like to weave about a 1/2 inch bale. So I've got my 28 gauge. I'm going to release a couple of feet of it. Oops, wrong spool. It'll take about 3 feet, maybe 4, to do this bale. So you can move the two 20 gauge wires in the front. Just put them down at 90 degrees, get them out of your way. And then back here, you can attach, give an inch to your 28 gauge. Do a complete 360 around this bottom wire to get attached. This is a figure 8 weave. So I'm going to go 360 around the bottom. Then I'm going to pass under and across to the opposite wire. I'll do a complete 360 around the opposite wire, and then I'll pass through the middle and under the opposite wire. Do a complete 360 around this wire and pass through to the other side. Go complete 360 around that one and pass through and under to the opposite wire. Got my back finger holding tension on that weave as I work. And you gotta always make sure that you're doing this complete 360. It's a figure 8 weave, but if you don't do the complete 360 around the space wire, the whole weave will slip on you. So do at least one 360. If you want these crossings to be further apart, then you might do 2 or 3 coils and then cross, and do 2 or 3 coils on this side and then cross. I like to do tight crossings, so I just do one complete 360 and then I cross over. I'm going to do another complete 360 coil and then I pass over. So it's like 1.5, but you're passing over on that half and under the opposite side. You're trying to keep the crossings nice and straight, but you're not pulling so tight that you're pulling these two wires together. You're keeping them at the same distance apart as you work. And you'll weave in this way up for about a 1/2 inch. And then we'll put the wires back together and weave the back side of the bale. The further you work up into this wider area, the more this weave is going to want to slip forward on you. So just work consistently. Keep holding them back at the back here. Keep pushing them down on either side as you work. I'm just going to release a little bit more wire off my bobbin. And I'll do a few more passes. I'm not quite at a 1/2 inch. You don't have to go a 1/2 inch. I just like my bales at that length. You can go a little shorter, a little longer. You don't have to do a weaved bale either. We could have put these two together and used 1/2 round and just wrapped a traditional 1/2 round bale. Ooh, I keep running into my camera. Okay, and right about here, it's about a 1/2 inch. I'm going to come one more time back this way. Right about here, I'm going to push the two back together. Just hold it right here and cross over the center, then hold on to this side of the weave and cross back over to the center. Ooh, keep them pulled back. Make sure that that you're crisscrossing in the center of your frame, otherwise the bale looks like it's off a little bit. That's pretty good there. Make sure your weave is, held back so that you can get a good view of it. When you get it the way you want it, it's about a 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch. I'm going to take my plier and right here at the middle, just give a nice squeeze and get them going vertical again. Oof. Try not to change the distance between them. And then you can continue to weave in this same pattern until you get to the opposite side. Okay. It will really want to slide from this side going back down to the narrow, from the wide center to the narrow. It will really want to slide on you. So you'll just work patiently. Try to move these two so that I don't collide with my camera here. Just work patiently, holding each one back as you work. I'm having a little trouble with my wrist this week, so I look like I'm struggling a little bit more than I normally do, because I am. Just work slow. Hold each side as you cross over. Don't forget to do the 360. Pass through and under the opposite side. Give myself some more space on my bobbin here. And this is the back side of the pendant, or the back side of the bale. So don't panic if it's not as perfect as the other side of the bale. It's the front side. The second half of my weave is always not as good as the first half going up. And it'll still be beautiful once we flip it over into the bale. Once you get here to the top, I'll just give a few more stitches. We're going to lay these two wires back down, the 220 gauge, and we'll catch them. So right here at the neck is where I like to get that last 360 right there. get rid of this leading wire. Just twist it until it snaps. Ooh, sometimes that hurts my fingers and I can't get it to snap. There we go. So with these two, go ahead and just turn them back up. And to make just a little decoration, I'm back up here at 90, you can do a twist on these two. So I'm just going to do that. So I'll get them crisscrossed right here at the neck, and then with my hands I'll do a very tight crisscross and twist. Keep your twist as even as you can. And when you think you have the length of the bale, mine's actually a little bit longer, just lay it back down on top of the bale. If you need to pinch right here, you can, but before we tie it all together, I like to just use my plier and get kind of a forward bend on it. Since I had it bent forward, I just kind of like to straighten that out. And then I come back here and just catch that right into the wire right here with 2 or 3 nice wraps. That looks pretty good. And you can end this wire, the weaving wire, just right here around the center a couple of times. Let's get it snug in there. And just turn it until it breaks. Okay, so that looks pretty good. So then right here at the middle of the bale, we're going to turn it back on itself, but make sure that you're nice and snug right here. If you need to take a plier and tighten it up just a smidge, whoop, don't over pinch it like I just did. Okay, and then we'll put a slight forward bend on it. And you can take bale making pliers, or you can just use your fingers. You can use a pencil, whichever you prefer. I'm going to just use my fingers. I'm just going to use my fingers to make this bale. I'm going to push and bend it right here at its widest point. Just make sure you've got enough space in the middle of the bale for a chain. Just turn it over on itself. Make the back wires come down and meet right there at the back of the neck. It's pretty cute. Ooh. Mine's kind of short. Let me get my bale making pliers because my hands are really stressing. So I'll get my bale making pliers here. I'll put the 2mm in there, and I'll just get that turned over. Onto itself here in the back. That's pretty cute. I can take the 2 wires here from the side, the 20 gauge, pull them out to the front. I'm sorry, the 18 gauge. Pull them out here to the front. If you want more design with them, you can, do a little curl or a little something here at the neck with them. If you don't want anything more, you can simply cut them off and, tuck them right there into the neck. Since I can always cut them off, I'm going to just try a little bit of a design on the bale and see if I want or like anything more. Just turn these two up from the bottom, get my plier, give it a little tap inward on both sides. Give this a little tap right there, a little tap right there to get it a little closer. That's pretty cute. Tie a little bead ball right there in the middle of those two. Just turn them to make them look cute. Then you can cut them off where you like them. I think I'm probably just gonna trim it right here, top of the bale on both sides. Tie a little bead ball right there. And then you can either curl these tips if you want to. If you don't want to, you can just take and turn them back on themselves. You know, pull them out a little bit and then turn them in a little bit. Just right here at the tip. Make sure you keep this neck pointed inward so that we can tie a bead ball there. Hold on to this side, get the tip of this, turn it out slightly, and then brace and turn just the tip right back in. Try to make them even on both sides and try to make them, you know, they don't have to be perfect, but you can kind of make them facing each other a little bit. Kind of like that. That's kind of cute. I'm trying to work inside of a camera here too, so a little bit off, but you get the idea. Just shape yours until they're cute. Like that. I'm going to turn this one down a little bit. And back here, if you need to, pinch these two a little bit. Make sure there's plenty of space there for a chain. And that's pretty cute. Take a little file. Make sure nothing is sticking up. And then you do have, you know, this additional wire back here. You don't need it, but if you wanted to use it for design, certainly you could, you know, split it right here at the base of the neck. Actually, undo one. Right here at the base of the neck of the pendant, and you could bring it around to the front for some additional design here at the neck if you want it. You know, maybe one more layer just for the sake of it. Crisscross those two. I'm not going to take anything up onto the bale, but I could just cut them right here and tuck them into there. So I'm just going to cut at the middle here. Trim it down, giving myself just a couple of millimeters on each side. There's that little space right there. I'm going to get my small plier, get at the tip, turn it in, and then just come around it and squeeze. Just work that in there as you like. If you don't want it and you'd rather tie a bead ball there, which is what I think I'm going to do instead. I feel like that's looking a little thick at the neck now. So I'm going to peel them back. If you want to use them, you go ahead, and if your stone's bigger, it'll probably look better. Mine's a little bit thick right there, but you could turn them both in, tap them right in there to live at the shoulder. Get it a little cleaner than I've gotten mine. If you don't want them there, and I'm going to peel them back because I think they're too much. I'm going to peel my two sides back. You could leave them here on the shoulders too. Just kind of tuck them in there like that. Lay that edge down, burnish it a little bit. Take this side, just fix that. Point that so that it goes underneath there. Give a gentle squeeze. Tuck it in underneath there. Tuck this one a little bit more. If you like that just for some added design up here on the shoulder, you can do it that way. I think I'm going to cut it back even still and take it all the way back to here. So I'm just going to take my cutter, take the bend out right here. Cut the wire back, take these back here. So this originates from this braid back here. Our chain is captured with this other one, right? So our bale is gotten by the 18 gauge here. So we actually don't need this guy at all. You just want to finish them cleanly. So if you're not going to use them, snip it, where I've got them right here. I'm actually going to go ahead and make it shorter. And then you can take this end and just fold it down on itself right here against the back of the pendant. Just turn both of those ends down. Point them inward right here at the base where those two 18 gauges crisscrossed. And then just pinch it in right there. Oh, I got it a little bit short. Maybe give yourself a little bit more. You can just tuck them right in there to the sides. Nice and neat, where nothing is felt or seen. Then you come up here and you can tie these. Let me move this one a little bit further. Cut that one a little short. So I'll make the other one match it. Just making a little adjustments here to mine. I got one a little bit short, so I think I'm going to cut this other one down to match it. Straighten it out. Lower it a little bit. And I'm going to cut the very tip of it off. Try to make it a little more even with the other side. That's pretty good. So just work those 2 wires until you love them. And then now right here I'm going to get a little 1mm copper ball, and I'm going to use some of this 28 gauge. So I've got a nice 2mm faceted copper bead right here. So cute. And I'll just put it here. Since these are open up here at the top, I'm going to make it easy on myself and just pull them forward slightly so that I can tie on to them, and then I'll push them back and work them back into place. Sand these little tips too while they're out if you need to. Try to make your coils look the same. You could even coil a couple of extra just for looks. That's pretty good. Go ahead and cut these off, leaving just enough that I can tap it around, that cut end around to the back, that frame wire there. I'll tap this one. Again, same with just enough to wrap around to the back. Make sure that everything is nice, and then take these and just work them back down. Point the tips inward and downward. Make sure they don't catch on anything. Put them right back into place on top of your bale. That's pretty nice. Okay, woo, that's pretty cute. It should feel quite stable. Make sure to look around your pendant, see if anything needs tightening. The stone should feel quite stable. Lay it all down. Give gentle pushing at the belly and on your 4 prongs. Make sure that everything is feeling good. It's cute. It's petite. Right. I'll put my favorite chain on here. That's quite cute. Wonderful. Just polish that up and enjoy.